and welcome to This Time Africa. As you know, This Time Africa is a platform that showcases our African men, our businesses, our entrepreneurs, politicians, our emerging leaders, and much, much more. But the question always is, what's on this time? On This Time Africa today, I have great minds with me as we talk about the democratic state of Africa. As you know, democracy is a commitment by certain institutions such as the Justice Department, the civil society, with political accountability and much more. To have this conversation in this first segment where we are talking about corruption in Africa, its causes, consequences, and the cleanup, I have with me here on my right, Alain Ikombo from Congo, Brazzaville. Welcome to the show, Alain.
Thank you so much.
I also have with me Mr. Sadiq Abubakar from United African Congress, from representing Ghana.
Thank you very much.
And of course, Alain is from Congo, Brazzaville, and he represents YADI. I also have with me Jean-Claude Nzamba from Gabon, representing the democratic, human rights and good governance for diaspora here in the U.S. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
So let's crack this nut quickly. Do you agree with the school of thought that first of all, in order for democracy to thrive, one of the things that we need is sustainable peace? So do you agree with the school of thought that corruption is a threat to that sustainable peace and justice?
Gentlemen, don't mind if I go first. So the topic of corruption is one that is of a particular interest to me, and I always approach it in two ways. The inter-discussion, which means between Africans and non-Africans, our economic partners from all over the world. And just to echo a thought that Ambassador Erikana Chihamore-Kwao of African Union, she has once said that corruption is a team sport, which is to say that corruption in Africa has a counterpart. That's one way to look at it. But even more important, I like to look at it as an intra-African discussion, as almost like a family reunion where we cast out all the other outside factors and we speak amongst ourselves and we have the hard conversations about corruption, what it's doing to our countries, our societies, and what we're going to do about it. It's a big, big conversation.
It's a big conversation.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Matilda Bango. I take this to a different notch. I want us to look at the institutional structures that allow for corruption to take place. In that conversation, we spin the whole idea of corruption on its head. When you have a system that cannot account for what is coming in and what is leaving, anyone can take anything between when it comes in and when it's leaving. When you have a system that does not have a database to know how resources are being dispersed to society, you have people who receive funding, siphoning funding into their own pockets. So the institutional structures that need to be laid out by government is something we need to focus on, because in that we are able to have proper accountability of resources and its distribution. We do not need to give people the ability to do and not account for it, because no one can trace the resources that are being distributed.
It's very important, because that's why I said political accountability. So what's your thought, John?
Again, thank you for having us. I think that this is a great opportunity. I think one of the things that I see as being really missing in terms of the diaspora, but also in terms of the Africans on the continent, is access to the right media, the media that's going to be objectives, and people that have some kind of expertise. Now, to kind of piggyback on my two colleagues here, corruption is pretty much what we see in the Greek mythology, where you have the dragon with multiple heads. The money has to go from one place to another place. So when you look at the systems in place to actually funnel that money, what you're going to see is, until probably recently, most of the money was going to Europe. So in this sense, we have the two ends of the corruptions. And until the countries in the Western Hemisphere is going to take money without really carefully looking at the origin of that money, they cannot at the same time come back and point that Africa is corrupted. Second, what corruption does to our communities and our society is actually destroying it. For example, you have a situation where a hospital was supposed to be built in a particular village. Whoever is in charge of that money takes it, put it in his own pocket, build his own house. What happened to the people in that community? Now, if they have a particular major sickness, they have to probably travel or actually die, unfortunately. So we're coming from a continent that is today. Africa is the bread that everybody wants. We're looking by 2050, we are going to be the continent with the largest population. When looking at the youth, you see that we have about 41% of the youth under 15 age. What are we doing for those particular youth? Now, you're looking at feeding. I mean, I look at a country like Gabon. Gabon has recently, cabinet minister discussed about passing an executive order on actually using the land of the country and assets of the government as a tool for militarization. But who knows exactly what are the assets? If these are the assets of the government, of the country, should it be known by everybody in the country?
Because that's what democracy is really. Democracy is everybody is involved and everybody has a knowledge. But I think that's what, Alain, we were talking about, intra-African responsibility. I want to call it intra-country responsibility. What are the people in, for instance, Gabon or Brazzaville, what are we doing? We're also responsible. And that's where sometimes our ethnic loyalty comes in and all of that. But what would you like to add to that?
Yeah, it's actually it is such a vast conversation, and we've had it, you know, and we keep having it, and it's necessary that we keep talking about it. So when you think about corruption in the African context, you only look at the African side of the corruption, and you know it becomes like a blight on the image that Africa has. Africa is already working hard at improving the conditions, and hopefully its general image follows. But when they talk about corruption in the African context, they don't see all the great the people who benefit most from African corruption. They see the leadership who are buying homes and buying a few cars here and there, whereas, you know, the wealth output that is leaving Africa.
Are you talking about the outside influence?
The outside influence, that's
Okay.
yeah. But internally, when I look at the corruption in Africa, those of us who came of age in the immediate aftermath of the independences, I look back and I almost feel like I worry most about the impact on the morality of Africans. It's like maybe the day-to-day conditions of everyday Africans have become so hard that we've had to sort of take leave of our moral boundaries. You know, we are willing to forego what used to define us in order to make ends meet. Tragic stories of father who knows that his daughter, his little girl, is for all intents and purposes prostituting herself. But he is completely handcuffed because if she does not do that, they may go hungry. To me, that's the greater threat of corruption in the African context. And how do we tackle it? Is it a bottom-up approach where within the family unit, we try to restore some of those values? We talk about it takes a village to raise a child. Villages, the members of the village are having to turn a blind eye to this corruption because reality on the ground demands that they just overlook certain things so that they can get by, so they can eat. Or is it a top to bottom approach where we need to start with the governance structure and our leaders and then work its way down?
What's your thought, Sadiq?
No, I really like Alan's explanation of it. You look at, let's go back to the fundamentals.
Please.
There are communities in Africa today, just like they've existed back in for centuries, yes, where if someone stole another person's pencil, whoever lost their pencil only needs to say, someone has taken my pencil. If you want to survive or live, bring it back. If you want to keep it, whatever happens to you, it's your own problem.
Yes.
And we all know that whoever took it will bring it back. Within that community, anyone who understands.
So there are ground rules.
Yes. Some would say this is fetish. Some will call it, what do you call it? Witchcraft. Whatever it is just. What does not belong to you, you cannot take.
Correct.
There is a reason why Africa is being tagged with corruption. Who was the first corrupter of Africa? Europeans. With due respect. When you come to my house and you take what does not belong to you and tell me it is yours, you sever the psychological umbilical cord that exists between people and their communities, creating an elite group after your model of teaching. Then bring back those people to rule the land when the psychological umbilical cord has been severed between them and their community. Where lies their loyalty?
So do you think that those people have been brainwashed, and therefore, which way? I mean, where do we go from there then? Because we're talking about, so we've come a long way from independence, all right? So the leash has been pulled back a little bit, a long way from independence. So we're here. Can we now, as Africans, take responsibility, the civil society, the private sector? What do we, in the intra-African context, do now to guard this so that we don't get into this corruption?
Just so that we understand this. Let's take what just happened to our ambassador, African Union ambassador, as an example. All she has done is to say, France, you are stealing $500 billion or close to trillions of dollars out of Africa every year. Let's stop that. She has been sacked out of office. So the leash has not been relaxed. But it doesn't mean that we are not responsible for our own mistakes too. We can establish the institutions of government, formidable and secure, enough to hold every single person accountable.
Accountable, yeah.
But what if those who would actually be held accountable are the ones who are actually in command?
Perpetrating yes.
The one who is perpetrating is the one who has the power. Who holds the powerful person in society?
How is Paul Kagame able to do it though? Jean?
Because
go ahead. Yeah.
In terms of
I mean, like, I haven't heard a lot of corruption, whatever, and, you know, things are happening in Rwanda. How is he able to do it? Is it him plus the civil society plus the private sector? Is he a team of people who desire that, Rwanda should make some progress?
I think it's a combination.
Okay.
There's a few, angle you could look at this, and there's a few school of thoughts. One school of thought is, if you bring a leader who knows exactly what he wants to do and is not ready to back off on any particular excuses, what some other people will call maybe a dictator or dictatorship, then people will look at this and say something is wrong. So I think one key thing that we have to go back to is the values. Where are our value systems? Go back to our traditions, the basics. Our value system was based on equal justice for all. You could be the chief of the village.
Yeah.
You have to abide by certain rules. And if you were breaking some of these rules, even when you go into some of the African secret societies, you will see that there were rules not to be broken.
Yes.
Okay? So until we go back to some of these things, now going back to our values means going back into our history, understanding ourselves, learning about our heroes. Today, people in America are celebrating what? Columbus Day. Well, tell me, how many of our heroes are we celebrating from Africa as an independent day? Almost, probably people are already talking about Nelson Mandela. But was Nelson Mandela the first one? We have people like the Queen Asantewa, Ghana, that actually fought against the British. We have Lumumba. We have Queen Sheba. We have the Queen Angola, Zinga.
But that's why we are having this kind of conversation, because at some point the table has to turn. And I think we are depending on great minds like us to turn this table around. I'm going to give you a minute because we're going to take a short break to come back, okay?
I wanted to take on the Paul Kagame situation. One thing people are not realizing is how Paul Kagame is doing it. He went down to a different neo-African system of governance. Every community, every family has a head. Heads of different families within a catchment area come together to form an institution. The head of that institution is representing that particular catchment area. Then different catchment areas within a specific space also form a leadership council of elders. It goes all the way up to parliament.
Okay.
So every single person in society is accountable to somebody in layers of hierarchy. That is why today they are practicing communal labor. They clean up their own streets. The government is not paying for someone to do it. If you throw garbage on the road, it's a form of being corrupt. It's an undermining circumstance to the development of the community. Someone within the community knows you and they will call you out.
So everybody is now focused on ensuring that, their country goes forward. So everybody is liable.
Yes.
Your last word before we will take a break.
Yeah, so you just touched on something that I've been thinking about. How when we were children in the proper African context, there was shame. You were ashamed to be seen doing something that is wrong.
Yes.
It feels like in Africa today, there's no shame anymore.
No integrity.
No. It's the end justifies the means.
The end justifies the means. We're going to take a short break and we'll be back. I know that this is going to be, we're going to have other sessions of this because we can't really finish everything today. We'll be right back. We're taking a short break. We're talking with very, very, very great minds in the studio with me. We'll be right back.
you want to promote your business? Do you want to talk about your nonprofit organization? Do you want to talk about your culture? Introducing the online web TV, Africa Today. We are live every Sunday at 3 p.m. Our shows are 3 p.m. Sunday Guests with Elaine Pierre. 4 p.m. This Time Africa with San Natilda Banga. 5 p.m. Transformation Point with Dr. Natalie Kamsudomo. 5:30 Cyber Connect with Jean Bosco Fogham. You can watch us live at the same time on 4 platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and using the Africa Today app. Download our app today for Android or Apple. Promote your business today. For more information, go to www.africtoday.com. Africa Today, the best of digital TV.
Hello, we're back in the studios with Alain Kombo, Sadiq Abubakar, Jean-Claude Nzamba, and we are talking about the state or the democratic state of Africa. So I want us to look at a country like Singapore. Singapore started from nowhere, and today it is considered a developed country, and I understand that they have a formula. There's a 3-pattern formula they have, which is meritocracy, pragmatism, and honesty. That's what has led them thus far. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, yes, Singapore it's become it's a model, an example that I love, and keep studying more and more about it. And the thing is that within all the sort of the technical layers that made Singapore what it is today, there was also something what some have referred to as like a benevolent dictator, a leader at the top who grabbed a hold of this project and he drove it irrespective of the voices around the world.
Yes.
The countless prescriptions of democracy as the great model of governance, but in the African context, we just literally bypass all the issues that are sort of that we're grappling with today, and we want to wake up and become a Jeffersonian democracy. It does not work like that. In our case, we need some sort of profound restorative process. We're going to rebuild ourselves, and it takes a lot of work. Because I said earlier that there's no longer shame. There's something that is fundamentally broken with Africa.
Yes.
And we need to be singularly focused on preaching it and applying it on a daily basis. And it starts, and we got to pay close attention to the youngest children, to the youngest generation, because they're the ones who are going to come of age.
The legacy.
Indeed.
Those are our legacy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Singapore is indeed a great example that you've cited. Yes.
And I agree. I mean, when you go back into the 60s, a country like Ghana and Singapore were actually at almost the same level, with even Ghana being ahead. And it has taken great leadership. So today, as we were saying, there was a few schools of thought. One saying, okay, you bring a democratic government, but if you don't have the value, if you don't have everybody behind, you might not really necessarily move right away into doing things, because you bring people to talk, and sometimes Africans, unfortunately, sometimes, not all, will have to talk, and we could talk for hours, and at the end of the day, what's the result? What do we achieve? Right? So you have to be pragmatic.
Yes.
You have to say, okay, what is the deadline? How do we measure our success? And sometimes having somebody that has a strong hand in the government to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to surround myself with the right people, and that's what was done in Singapore. And we're going to do this, but we're working with consensus with certain people based on criteria set aside. A very good example, Botswana. The first president, Sir Kame, was the son of a king. When you look at his story, what he's telling you is, from the very beginning, he was taught how to serve. That as a king, you need to be occupied by the well-being of the people in the kingdom. So when he became president, that's the only thing he did. Now, Botswana became independent in 1966. It was among the poorest countries in the world. after they got independence, discovered diamonds. And what they did was, okay, because they realized, well, diamonds is a resource that might finish, but what we're going to do is we're going to put most of the revenue for it into our healthcare, into education, into agriculture. Today, when you look at it, Botswana is among one of the highest per GDP in Africa.
GDP, yeah.
Even being cited as one of the few countries in terms of democracy. But to go back to what my brother Sidiki is saying, but the way the king was ruling was based on what we call the kotlas. The kotlas are kind of the chieftaincy, where you see the king going and sitting down on the floor with people in that particular community and say, hey, this is what we're trying to do for the country. What do you think?
Yes. So there is an engagement and community engagement. Yes, Sadiq.
Thank you very much. To piggyback on what my brothers have said, you have a country that is pragmatic, its citizens are honest, and they give positions based on merit. Who wouldn't flourish in that kind of an environment?
Exactly.
We need that, but we also need to be very smart about it. Kwame Nkrumah would have taken Ghana to something bigger than Singapore. But between Ghana and Singapore, which of the presidents was eliminated? Ghana. Now, after Kwame Nkrumah, today Ghana is being blamed for systematic corruption in government. Who implanted it? The system that introduced the successive coup d'etats in Ghana, 50 years later is telling us we are sorry we were behind that coup. So let's look at the problem of Africa within a much wider perspective.
Yeah.
The internal, as Brother Allen has said, and the external.
Yeah.
The internal corruption we can solve. The external corruption, however, is formidable. Let's look intelligently as to how to cut ourselves from the influence of that external what do you call it? Environment.
So among other things that we should be doing is to see how we can cut ourselves from the external influence, and above all, let us have a sense of pride for the countries that we were born in, and have a sense of pride to make the change, to be the change. This is where we'll drop the cutting. I know there's a lot, but we are coming on round 2. It's been such a pleasure speaking with Alain Nkombo. Thank you very much. From Congo, Brazzaville, and Sadiq Abubakar from the great country of Ghana, representing United African Congress, and Jean-Claude Zamba from Gabon. Thank you very much, gentlemen. This has been a great time. I will let you know what to do. Facebook, Twitter, www.facebook.com, africtoday.com. Go to on Sundays, of course, that's how we air. Oh my God, I'm so happy today. I don't know what to say. But thank you very much. We will be right back for session 2. This has been your host, Sia Matilda Banga. I'll see you next time.